I've made a start here on this question here in relation to pie charts, and I've drawn a little circle here on the right to represent how I'm going to draw this information here on the pie chart in front of me. Now it's just a rough kind of sketch here just to figure out, before I go to the effort here with my protractor in front of me on the big circle, where I should lay out things in front of me. When I did my calculations, I worked out that sleeping was worth 135 degrees and social media was worth 45 degrees. Now, a lot of this, I suppose, dividing up pie charts requires a little bit of, I suppose, being a bit clever, really, about how you lay things out. You should recognize here that there's 4 quadrants in a circle. Okay, if we divide it up here, there's 4 quadrants, and each quadrant is worth 90 degrees. Okay. If I take a semicircle, there's 180 degrees here in a semicircle. So when I worked out that sleeping is worth 135 degrees, what I recognized there was that, well, that takes up a full quadrant anyway straight away, because that full quadrant there is 90 degrees. And when I take out my protractor, all I need to add on then to that from this point is 45 degrees. And then I have worked out, I have covered the sleeping part of that pie chart, which is 135 degrees. The other thing then is in relation to social media, and social media was 45 degrees, so I think it makes sense to put it next to the sleeping, because together they make up 180 degrees. And very quickly then, to try to lay out where I'm going to put the rest of the items. So from the book, you would have worked out that with friends it was 105 degrees. So again, when you work with a protractor, if you add on 15 degrees here, that would give you, this section here would be 105 degrees, and that would be representing your time with friends. Okay, and finally then, we need to represent 2 other sections, 15 degrees for eating and 60 degrees for playing sports. So if you add on another 15 degrees, that's going to be eating. And finally, the last 60 degrees, when I put this pie chart together, is going to represent playing sport. Okay, so I think that's the best way we could lay out this pie chart. And now I'm actually going to start that pie chart and do it properly. Okay, so the first thing anyway, I'm going to write down pie chart. Okay, I might just write down all the values here on the right that we're dealing with again. So 135 degrees. Well, you know what? I don't need to, because I have this pie chart here in front of me and I'll use that instead. So the same, I think this is kind of good advice here for pie charts, is to maybe, if you have a pencil, what you'll do is create a small little light dashed line across the pie chart. Okay, so the center of it, and you're going to draw, basically, you're divided into the quadrants. Okay, and the quadrants would be equal in size, of course. Okay, so now that I've kind of created a rough kind of grid here that I'm going to use, I'm going to physically put in my values. So the key thing here is that when you're dealing with a protractor here, you might notice that there's like kind of a crosshairs in the protractor. You want the center of that crosshairs here to be on the exact center of the circle. Okay, now you might notice here that there's basically 2 kind of scales. There's a scale on the inside and there's a scale on the outside. And you always want to start from 0. So I'm going to start here. If I'm starting from right to left, I'm going to start with the inner scale here, because 0 is on the inner scale. And I'm going to work my way across, and I recognize here that 90 degrees is up here. Okay, what I really want though is I want to get 135 degrees. So working my way along here, what I notice here is that I have 120 here, and we're basically going anti-clockwise across here. So I have 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the ways across here until I reach 130. Now remember, I want to get 135. So 135 is going to be halfway between 140 and 130. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a mark out here, and I'm going to use this mark here to help me create my line. This line needs to be drawn here from the center point of the circle. Okay, so that's the center point there. And once you've done it, you can just label it then. So we know that this represents sleeping. Okay, and if you want to, you can put in the angle there as well, which is 135 degrees. Okay, so that's the first thing represented. The next thing then is the social media. Well, I don't even have to measure that one out, because I recognized when I did a rough sketch of this that social media was worth 45 degrees. Okay, so social media can go straight in here as well. Okay, so social media, 45 degrees. Now, I'm going to actually finish this line now, because when I started off, this was only a rough line here to help me start the pie chart, but now it's going to be completed because this is one semicircle of the pie chart. So now the next thing then is I'm going to have to work here with I'm going to start maybe with the 105 degrees. So this time, instead of turning up like this, we're going to have to turn the protractor upside down. Remember, the crosshairs is going on the center point, and again, you work with whatever scale works best for you. Okay, so I'm going to work from left to right, which is anti-clockwise again. So in other words, what I need to get here is 105 degrees. So I found 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and then finally 110. Now remember, we're looking for 105, which is this point here between 100 and 110. Again, create a mark for yourself, and this is going to be used then to connect the center point of the pie chart outwards. So I've now created that line, and this is going to be called with friends. Okay, so this person's obviously very sociable. They are spending 105 degrees of their time on this pie chart with friends. Right, finishing this off, I have 15 degrees, and also I have to represent playing sport. Now, there's two ways you could do this, okay? And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you here maybe an easy way to do this first. I suppose one easy way you could do is you could take. Okay, I know 60 degrees must be included here. So if I start over here at 0, so this time 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Okay, you could do this way and recognize here that I could just connect up this line, and whatever's left over must be the remainder, which is 15 degrees, okay, which represents eating, okay. But another way I could do it is I could look here and say, okay, this is representing 105 degrees. If I add on another 15 degrees onto that, then that will tell me where to put my dot. So what I have here in front of me, if I look here very carefully, I should have got 105 degrees, okay. Now I'm just going to line it up a bit better. There we go, 105 degrees. So if I add on another 5, so basically 5 would bring me to 110, and then another 10 onto that would bring me to 120. And what you should notice there, it brings us to the exact same point, okay. So in other words, when I connect this up, this is 15 degrees inside here, which represents eating. And once you figured out that much, then you can just fill out the rest. Playing sport, and playing sport is worth, well, what did we say? It was worth 60 degrees. So, guys, drawing a pie chart is very straightforward, but you've got to be strategic about where you put things to make it easy on yourself. If you're dealing with odd numbers and you're not dealing with 90 degrees, then create this little grid for yourself, okay? These dots here were very helpful for me to figure out where I should lay things out, and they should be helpful for you as well. Okay, so that's how you draw a pie chart. Best of luck with it now with your homework.